Hi, I'm Alan Hedblum. Welcome to our show, a place to feel like you belong. In our studio today is Birgit Klohs. Birgit is President and CEO of The Right Place in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Birgit, thanks for taking the time to stop by.
Well, thank you, and thank you for getting my name right. That's really nice.
That's, a German major is good for something
This is good.
these days.
This is true.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, you have been in a leadership position at The Right Place for over 24 years, but I think a lot of our viewers may not know what The Right Place does. Can you tell us?
Oh, sure. I'd be delighted to. I've been with The Right Place since 1987. It's a regional economic development organization. It's a private-public partnership for the creation, retention, and expansion of businesses and jobs in the area. So basically what we do is help our local companies, particularly those in the high-tech area, manufacturing, medical devices, et cetera, expand, make sure that they're well taken care of in our region and stay here and create new jobs here, and then market the community outside of West Michigan, all over the United States, and actually globally, and to bring new businesses to the area.
Okay. So obviously economic development is very important for not just our region, but our whole state. How did you get interested in this? I mean, how does a person develop this as a career?
Total serendipity. As you know, I was born and raised in Germany, moved to the United States, ended up working for an economic development organization by sheer happenstance, even before I had my degree in Benton Harbor, St. Joseph.
Okay.
And I learned sort of the business and became very intrigued. And it was in the infant stages of the business, of the economic development business actually in Michigan. Two of my colleagues and I were the first two women members of what was then called the Michigan Industrial Developers Association many years ago. And I was intrigued that about the whole idea of helping a company and so that they could create jobs. And it became sort of, part of my psyche is that a job is the best social service. And I'm misquoting or partially quoting a gentleman by the name of Kauffman, who has founded the Kauffman Foundation in Missouri, in Kansas City. And I've always felt that was really, it almost became a little calling, but I knew nothing about the business. So a gentleman by the name of Chuck Schrank, who ran the Economic Development Corporation in Berrien County, took me under his wings. I started going to Western, got a degree in finance, and the rest, as they say, is history. Eventually, we moved to this area and started working for Grand Valley, worked for a while for the Prince Corporation, took a detour through the private sector, and then went back and got the job at The Right Place.
So it's worked out well.
It's worked out well. It's been an incredibly, how shall I put it, satisfying, enjoyable position to be in, and to see how this community and region over the last 26 years has come into its own. It's just been a real privilege, actually, to do this work.
Anyone who talks to you about your work and senses the passion, so it's obviously been a good fit.
It has been a great fit, and but this is also a community that engages and that wants to engage. And I think people that move here and engage find it to be a good community to be in. Those that want to stay on the sidelines, this is not necessarily probably a good place for you, but having had the privilege of work with so many people, the successful entrepreneurs who still to this day believe in this community, reinvest in this community, are open to new business. Our municipal leadership, which is open to expansion of business. You know, all of those things are important in my job, because when you think about it, we don't control anything.
Right.
We don't control the land or the workforce or the idea of a person to start a new business. We just have to facilitate. And so your network and the willingness of our partners, be they municipal or private, real estate brokers, all of that comes into play so that you can be successful in what it is we are charged with doing.
Well, obviously your cheerleading and matchmaking function has gone on well, because Grand Rapids has really, West Michigan has really flourished.
Well, it's more than cheerleading. I mean, it's marketing is not cheerleading. I hope you don't mind my saying that. There is really an art and a science behind the work that we do. I mean, you have to find first of all, the companies locally that are in expansion mode. You have to give them the assistance that they need, because every successful community that attracts business has, first of all, a successful business community. You do not attract a new business to an unsuccessful community. It doesn't work. So we spend probably 75% of our time making sure that the people who've already made a commitment to our region stay here, so that they don't say, oh, that Birgit Klohs and all of her people at the right place, they just are interested in that new company from some exotic locale, and I've been here for 50 years. Au contraire, it's the other way around. Mm-hmm. I want to help the company that's been here for 50 years first, so that the company from the exotic locale has a supplier that they can then use. And so it's really a symbiotic relationship, not an either-or relationship.
Well, and you talked about that recently in an article that
Correct.
you wrote for
Yeah.
MyBiz.
We don't go hunting first. In fact, I don't really like that work. We go marketing, but we can't really do that if we don't have companies here that A, can be suppliers, and B, want to be here and grow here. So, because my worst nightmare is that if a new company comes here and wants to talk to you, Mr. Business Owner, who's been here for 40 years, and you say, I have no idea who the right place is. I don't know, they've never called on me, they take me for granted. So if I were you, I wouldn't come. That would be our worst nightmare, that we don't get that resonance with our local companies that say this is a great place to do business, and they take care of you.
So if you have a local base of both support and a track record of
Absolutely.
Of growth,
you have to have
then
both.
Success attracts success.
Success, exactly.
Yeah, sure,
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you are going to join a trade mission this fall with the
Yes,
governor.
right.
You're going to China and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there will be lots of ceremonial dinners and hoopla, but once the cameras are turned off and the sleeves get rolled up, what really happens on these kinds of trips? What gets done?
They're very intense, and they're working trips. So, what I don't like about these trips is that the press constantly calls them junkets, which they're not. They're generally 18 to 20-hour days, with or without a governor.
But there is good eating.
There is good eating, okay. But it's really all about marketing our state. And when I go just for right place to whatever country, then I market just West Michigan. But when I go on a mission that includes the governor and other colleagues from around the state, we're all about this state. And the role of the governor in that case is to be our chief marketing officer and to have companies that are looking to expand elsewhere understand the advantages of being in Michigan. Our labor force, our logistical location, our tax structure, all the things that we have done as a state to make the state more attractive for business. So when the nice dinner, but even over the nice dinners, it's a business dinner, it's not just a dinner. You are doing business because a dinner is part of that getting to know you ceremony of them welcoming us into their culture and treating us to a very nice dinner, but by the same token, it is also us learning from them and talking about what it is that makes this state a good place to do business. So,
and in some cultures, you can't be too hasty because in East Asia, in Latin America, they're really looking at relationship before business. And if they don't like you, don't trust you, then
it's all about relationships. I think one of the reasons that the right place has been successful is that we have built long-lasting relationships, both on the local, state, the national, and the international level. And relationships require, like a good marriage, right? Nurturing. So when the governor goes back, and he's been to China before, he's nurturing relationships he started in his first trip. And when I go to other countries, I nurture relationships that I started many, many years ago. And that even if a company has already located here, we will go back to the headquarters and say, thank you for making that investment. What else can we do for you? It's really long term. Once you're in, and that's what I always say, I've recently made a presentation to colleagues of mine at a conference for economic developers, because it's become an in thing to do to go overseas and look for foreign direct investment. And when I first started hunting, when I first started in this business, there were a handful of us going overseas. But now, everybody wants to go overseas. And so, but what we have done at Right Place, and what the state of Michigan has done since 1974, so almost 40 years, is to nurture relationships in various countries over the long haul. And if you don't have, it's not like you're going to go to Japan or Germany or France and say, now you all come over now, and you have a nice dinner and everybody thinks they're coming. It can take you years to talk to that company and to finally locate. And, or maybe they never will. And then you have to say, and in my job, there are only gold medals. There are no silver and bronze. So once they make a decision they're going here, then you're done. But you have to take that chance. Sure. So the relationship building is really, and the nurturing of that relationship is really key. So you can't just go once. You have to have the long breath, as I say, to go back and visit again and again until they say, nope, I'm not doing it. Or I've experienced that I started a relationship, it went dormant because the company said not now, and all of a sudden popped back up and said, oh yeah, Mrs. Klohs, we talked to you before, we would like to talk to you again. So never give up on anything. So
let's look at the other side of this. You've gotten a company to come to Grand Rapids to set up office or manufacturing or consulting or whatever here. The theme of our show is belonging. So once you get past sort of, oh, you're here, hooray, how do you continue that relationship so that in fact they don't say, you know what, we don't feel like we belong, and then they have to move on. How do you create that sense of welcome in an ongoing sense?
Well, it sometimes starts with making sure that they get the banking relationships or the legal relationships established. Sometimes I've gone so far as hire one of my German friends to take a family furniture shopping, okay, because it's different.
Furniture styles are different.
I have gone so far as say, can you help somebody please figure out how we shop for groceries? We've gone so far as given references to someone with a car dealership for a, let's step back, one back. Banking relationships all over the world are very different, okay? So in Germany, you don't need a long credit history to go and buy a car because most people still pay cash for that car, okay? Or many people do. Well, here we don't. So if you are German or Swedish or French or Japanese and you walk into a car dealership and you want to lease an automobile for the next 3 years and you've just landed here, you have no credit history,
exactly.
Okay? So, and it's a brand new company. So as the car dealer, how do I know that you can make that car payment? So I've had calls from car dealers that said, yeah, or they say we're working with the right place. Oh, well, let's call there and find out if the company is really legit.
You can vouch for them.
And can vouch for them. So, and then once they get settled in, we have had families and made arrangements for the children to be picked up by the school bus. And then it's really an ongoing, nurturing relationship that really never stops. And you get the CEO from the home country may come by, and you want to say, when he or she comes, let's have dinner. When I go over there, let's meet again. So it's really making them feel that they do belong. In some cases, we set up dinner meetings with other CEOs to say, you know, Mr. So-and-so is here, he's new, he would like to meet his colleagues. There's a lot of little things that we do that go on behind the scenes that people don't realize that come out of those kind of relationships.
Sure. West Michigan is stereotypically white and Dutch, but there's a surprising diversity and growing diversity in this region. How does that impact your conversations that you have with companies around the world?
Oh, a great deal. In fact, it actually is very helpful. And yes, it has this perception, which unfortunately sometimes reality overtakes perception, and perceptions stick around much longer. You know, the whole world thinks Michigan is, has this perception of certain things, and yet when they come to the state or they come here, those perceptions start to change. And we have a very broad student body, even though it's not concentrated in just one university, but in many universities and colleges. There is an international student body here that's growing, but there are really over 40 languages spoken in this region. And so you have a very large Southeast Asian community, a very large Latino community, and many other nationalities that we actually, in particularly with one company that we located here, that became a very key selling point. How many languages are spoken in this region? And so the diversity that's growing sort of unnoticed in some quarters is quite the strength, I think, that we are building on.
So you're a fan of immigration and diversity, and
well, I is an immigrant, right? And I hope over my years in this country and in this region, I have contributed. Mm-hmm. And yes, I think it is what this country is all about. I mean, at one time, everybody here was an immigrant, right? I mean, unless you are Native American, we all came from elsewhere. Sure. And the mix of the immigrant has changed, but I think that enriches the experience.
Absolutely.
There's no question.
Yeah. Last question. When we look at culture, we sometimes analyze it in two ways. There's sort of big C culture issues, which are art and literature and architecture, but those are things that we can all see. They're they're very noticeable. But then there's this other aspect of culture, which we call little C culture, things like punctuality or informality or independence. You've been away from Germany. You make trips back, but you live here now. What are things, either big C or little C, that you miss?
Big C is my Sunday afternoon coffee and cake along the Rhine or Mosel River. Okay. You know, I mean the openness to culture, like we have Art Prize now, you know, which is fabulous as far as I'm concerned. So, little C, you know, just doing business differently. You know, I mean, there are just certain ways of having a business conversation with a German versus a business conversation with an American. So, when I go back and forth, and I do that obviously quite often, I have to flip a switch. Sure. You don't make small talk with an American, if it's a German businessman, you get right down to, you know, to business.
In fact, some of those questions are, excuse me, too personal.
Oh yeah, you don't go there.
No.
You don't go there. No, it's not about what you did for golf yesterday or how your children are doing. You get right down to business. Where over here, you know, that becomes part of the getting to know you. Whereas in Germany, it's much more set in terms of how you deal with a business conversation. So, but there are things about Sundays, and it's kind of strange, but I miss Sundays in Germany the most because everything is closed, and I don't want to say that that I don't go shopping here on Sunday, but it's more of a family time where you still go hiking or biking or whatever, and it's a much more family-oriented day.
Spaziergang.
In Spaziergang, genau. I miss spazieren gehen.
Yeah, we don't do that.
No, we walk, but you know, and I love my walks around Reeds Lake, but it's not a stroll.
Right.
I do it for exercise. So there are some things that I miss.
Sure. Well, I have to tell you, our time has absolutely flown by. It's been a delight.
I can't believe it's over.
We're getting the signals that we have to wrap up here already, but thank you so much for stopping by. It's been a wonderful conversation,
pleasure,
and let's stay in touch because there are a lot of good conversations that still need to be had around welcoming others to this region and creating new strengths here. So
it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by. And please stay tuned. We'll be following up with a segment called What Do You Say? During our conversation with Birgit Klohs, you heard her say serendipity. This means that something lucky happened by chance. In the case of her career, she got into the field of economic development without planning to. It was just her good luck. You also heard Birgit say, took me under his wings. This means Birgit's mentors paid special attention to guide her career and give her advice. The metaphor comes from a mother bird protecting her babies under the safety of her wings until they're ready to fly. For explanations of other slang and cultural expressions, go to our website at feellikeyouBelong.com. There's news on the human nature front, a new scientific breakthrough that has to do with how we understand human prejudice. Scientists have shown that the brain responds differently to accents they are not used to. It seems that we feel more at ease with people who sound just like us because processing these sounds is easier for us, a phenomenon called cognitive fluency. Not surprisingly, we listeners tend to assign negative judgments to an accented speaker even when the speaker is quite knowledgeable. On the positive side, studies show there may be benefits to wrestling with language that is difficult to process. According to this research, making your brain work harder can make you smarter and help you remember information better. So, give unfamiliar accents another chance. It's good for you. For more details on this study, go to our website at feellikeyouBelong.com. What is black and white and red all over? Give up? A newspaper. Now, if you didn't understand this joke, you are in good company with thousands of American children who are also learning that sometimes a word can have more than one meaning. In fact, we use double meanings a lot to teach children that language has some ambiguity to it. Now, if you like double meanings, then you are probably a good joke teller in English or in your own language. So, if you're confused by this joke, you can check out our website at feellikeyouBelong.com and get examples of other jokes to delight the children in your life.